Hello guys, this is Justin McGowan and welcome back to JDM Professionals. Now, my last video was talking about my winter session at Queens County Farm. Now, in the other videos that I made, it's usually like a few weeks or a month late. But this time, I'm not late on this time. It's only by a few days, but it is close enough there. But I just finished my spring session with Queens County Farm, and there's a lot to talk about, so let's talk about it. Now, there's a lot of interesting programs for the spring. Like, I mentioned that back in the winter, we had everything indoors, so there was not a lot. But since the spring was outside again, there was a lot more schools going there, which means I was back to working every single day. Thank God for that. So, and it was also exciting because other than the fact that there were a lot of new educators there was a lot of programs to discuss. So let's talk about it. Now, one of them is not actually much of a program. It's basically something that we do like every day. And one of those programs is the seasonal farm tour. Now, if you know, I've done the farm tours before, but all the other times I did the farm tours, it was just in the middle of program stuff. But here, it's just the tour. So knowing that the farm tours were everything, was the only thing I did, I thought I need to find a way to make my tour longer, to last for 2 hours or 2.5 hours. And I did, because when I did the farm tours, I talk about the animals, and I bring them the hayride and everything. So I took the time to look more and figure out more I gotta do. So I ended up talking about the buildings. I was talking about the barn. I was talking about the Adrian's farmhouse. I was talking about the education building. I was talking to them about the farm store. And then I was talking to them about the compost. Of course, I had to look it up and I had to learn a bit more of that. But I eventually got the hang of it, and it lasted a bit longer, which is fun and everything. Now that is the program that I did the majority of the spring in. But of course, there were some other programs that we had. Another program that we had was Animal Adventures. So for the Animal Adventures, we basically talked about the farm animals, what does the farm animals do, what their job is, and then we talk about animal sounds, animals fabrics, what they make for us, and everything. And then another thing that we did was really fun. What we did next is that we had students from the classes churn the butter. Yes, so what we have is like a butter churner, and then we put inside like cream milk and cream, and we put it inside. And what we did is we have every student come forward and churn the butter like 10 to 15 times and all that, so we can make it into butter. And once each student was done, we had them get a cracker with butter that was made from a class prior. And the crackers and butter were really good, by the way. It was really good and everything. Everything about that was really fun. And I really enjoyed doing the Animal Adventures one. And now another program that we had for the compost to zero. So yeah, the same class that was mentioned in the fall returned in the spring. Now, before I continue talking about that, there's something I gotta point out, because like one of the things that I did on the farm tours is that we feed the goats and everything. However, that is limited. The animal feed is only for those that are doing the seasonal farm tour and the Animal Adventures. But so those are the only time I feed. But if I'm doing other programs besides those two, we don't do that. We just do the program and the tour, and that's it. So anyways, back in the fall, I wasn't able to do the Compost Zero because I didn't spend too much time in the fall. But now, with more time, I was finally able to do the Compost Zero. Now it's really interesting. Like, we got the basics of the compost. Like, we talked about the compost. We talk about what we use for compost, what compost turns into, and we talked about the worms and decomposers, and we basically talk about how composting creates better soil and eliminate waste to make a world a better place. Now the activities for the Compost Zero is actually different depending on the grades. For kindergarten, for 5th grade, what we did is make seed balls. So we had some clay, we had some water, and we had some compost. And then we put them together and we turn into a seed ball. But for 6th to 12th grade, for their activity, they make a compost campaign. So pretty much like they work together to make a paper project about the compost and everything. Like, when I saw that, I was like, shouldn't it be in the other way around? Because, like, I felt like the older grades have an easier activity than the younger, because, like, the younger ones, they have to follow instructions and just make sure they do the ball perfectly. While for the 6th and 12th grade, all they gotta do is use their imagination, use their words. Like, I mean, it's like, how does that make sense? Shouldn't the older grades have a harder challenge than the younger ones? I mean, it doesn't make sense, but regardless, both were fun, of course. And as I mentioned, in the fall, it was the one class that I didn't do, but I finally got a chance to do it in the spring, even though it was only one time. So I'm happy to say that I've done every single class for the fall. So the other program that we did, which I also only did once, it's What's the Buzz? So basically for that, we talked about the bees, we talked about their lifestyle, and how they make the honey, their beehives, and so many processes regarding the bees. We basically had a PowerPoint presentation, and we showed the beehives, the beekeepers' jobs, and everything regarding the bees. And and then we did an activity that was fun. Like, the students and also the staff and parents made candles made from wax, which is one of the things that the bees make, from the honeycomb or something like that. So what they did is that they had a certain knot to tie it, and then we put it inside the wax and then roll it up. We roll it up, and then we made candles. Making those candles was so much fun, and I definitely enjoyed doing that. Even though I, of course, did it one time, but it was still fun to know the process of how to make candles. So we had so much fun doing that. So the next program is Design Your Own Farm. Now this is one of 2 classes in the spring that I wasn't able to do. But from what I've gathered about Design Your Own Farm, they're talking about exploring the plants and photosynthesis, pretty much a STEM thing. They talked about crops and plants and the ecosystem and a lot of that. Like, I didn't do this program, so I don't know much. But from what I saw, I know that the students had the activities of transplanting a seedling, like they had like a vase with some soil, and they put in the seed inside, and I saw them bring them in a paper bag or something like that, bring them back to school. And when the kids bring them back to the school, the teachers are provided with the digital multi-part lesson plans complete at school, in which students apply what they learn to map out a menu, pick their crops, and design their own farms. So they pretty much have a free plan to bring them home, which is really fun. Like, I wish I was able to do that, but of course it's fun. Now, the last program, the one I'm most upset that I didn't get a chance to do, is the history of New York City. Now, if you know me very well in a personal level, you may know that my favorite subject is history. Particularly American history, but history in general. It's like, not only it's something that's my favorite, but it's something that I'm really good at. So I do mean it when I say that I'm upset that I did not do this class. For the history of New York City, all of it took place inside the farmhouse, which only had one class. It's because it's a bit small house, and we need the space. And the thing is, it varies from 3rd to 12th grade. From 3rd to 5th grade, they learned about the life of the Dutch farmers, Jacob and Catherine Adrians, and the students explored period artifacts and learned about daily lifestyles and family roles of an early New York City family. Meanwhile, for the 6th to 12th grade, they journeyed through the history that shaped New York City, from the indigenous peoples to Dutch colonialism, and pretty much talks about Queens Farms' 300 plus years of the history of agriculture as a way of life in New York City. They learned how the 17th century colonial homestead evolved into a bustling truck farm serving a growing city well into the 20th century, and to analyze artifacts and architecture in the farmhouse to find evidence of change in culture and politics and technology shaped the way of New Yorkers today. Well, they talk about the history, but there are two different activities for them to choose from. It's like when the schools do the history of New York, they can either learn about making butter and then churn the butter and tasting the butter, or they can learn about the quills and write with quill pens and ink. You know, what we used to write with before the age of pencils and pens exists. So again, it is another program that I did not do. But what makes it sad is that not only I did not do this program, but it seems to be the program that nobody loves for some reason. Because, like, all the other programs, they come several times. But for History of New York, it just shows up once in a full moon. I believe we only have it at least 5 times throughout the whole spring. Which is sad, because the History of New York City class was a fun concept. It's like, it is fun. It is talking about the history. Like, how do they not want to do this program? So it's only been like 2 programs in the spring that I didn't do instead of just 1, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. But I definitely had fun with the programs in the spring. Now, of course, there's a lot of things to talk about for the spring besides those programs. And one of the extra programs I did actually started just before we started the spring session. So for 2 days, I basically helped out with the barnyard egg hunt. So we basically had it on April 1st and April 8th. On a Saturday. So it's pretty much an Easter-based event. So we had children going around doing an egg hunt, a scavenger hunt. They had sweets like chocolate and stuff from the farm store. There was a dance involving bunnies, and then there were the Easter bunnies. Like, the Easter bunnies, that was what I did in both days. I basically helped out. I was the escort for the Easter bunnies. So like for me, all I had to do is be around with the Easter bunnies, help out with the lines, help out with taking photos of families with the Easter bunny. It's like, and wherever the bunnies go, I gotta go with them. So like, when we leave the barn, when I gotta take them outside, and whenever the bunnies need a break, I walk with them back to the barn and hang around with them before it's time to go back out. Pretty much for me, I only take breaks when the bunnies take breaks, which is not a lot of times. So, of course, because of that, I wasn't able to have lunch. Not that I couldn't have lunch, I could have if I wanted to, but of course I needed to stay with the bunnies, and I didn't want to. And since there were so many people that went there, I don't want to leave. I didn't just want to end up just leave and then have lunch assuming everything will be fine, and then something goes wrong. Like, I did not want that to happen. It's like with my jobs that I've had over the years, I basically put jobs first before anything else and all that. Like, I'm very selfless. I put others over myself. So that's what happened. And the only reason I was able to eat on the second day, on the 8th, was all because of my best friend Emily. Like, Emily was there the second day of the barnyard egg hunt. So she was going around looking at the animals and nearly had a chance to do the egg hunt. So what happened is that I was busy helping out with the bunnies and the families, taking photos and everything. Then out of nowhere, I felt a bump right behind me, which shocked me. At first, I thought it was just some random kid desperately skipping the line trying to get to the Easter bunny. But then I turned around, and there was Emily right there. It's like, she was able to find me there, and she was surprised. Like, of course, she went around and did the farm animals and checked everything else. But of course, she spent a lot of that time sitting at the tent behind me, and basically kept me company and helping out and everything. Like, in fact, at one point, she went to the farm store and just got me some food, like cookies, which is really good. Of course, I would have been happy if I had lunch, but hey, at least I had something better than nothing. And then of course, after I finished work at the egg hunt there, Emily took me out for dinner, and then we played some pool, and we had so much fun together and everything. So the barnyard egg hunt was a success and everything. Like, it was definitely the perfect way for me to celebrate Easter. It's like people just celebrate it by seeing the Easter bunny, just going on egg hunts. But for me, I celebrated it by working at the farm, helping out with the Easter events, and then having dinner on Easter. So that was so much fun. Now, there was another event that was going on that happened on Earth Day. Actually, there were 2 events going on, but I only did one of those. One of those events was the Apple Blossom Carnival. So there was a carnival on the farm. There were a lot of rides, there were games to play, and everything. It was so much fun. But of course, I did the other event, and that was the Bee Pollinator Day. So what some of us did, including myself, was we basically had some certain projects and helping Earth Day, and helping with the crops, like some cut the plants and others did some cleaning. But what I and one other did was helping out with the flower beds. So like what we needed to do is get the plants and the weeds out and put them on a pile for it to be used for composting. Like it was exciting and it was a lot of work. However, we did not do it alone because for that day we had some volunteers come down to help us. So, there were a lot of schools and organizations that came down to the farm to help us get work done. I had a lot of people come to the flower beds and help out with the plants and the weeds. So me and my other coworker were in charge of that station and make sure all the work gets done and everything. And after having the event for 4.5 hours, we were able to get all the flower beds done. So, and we completed it with 5 minutes to spare. So, here's what the flower beds looked like in the beginning. And this is what the flower beds look at the end. That day was a success. It was amazing. And shout outs to PS 182, Brooklyn Technical High School, the Stuyvesant School, Whole Foods, and many community organizations who volunteered to help us. Thank you guys so much for helping us that day. If it wasn't for you, none of the work that we got done wouldn't be possible. We did so much that day, and I'm so proud of the work that we have done, and I'm so glad I was able to come to help out to celebrate Earth Day. So we got everything done and everything, and after that, I still had 30 minutes left before the farm was closing at 5. So I thought, why not go spend some time at the Apple Blossom Carnival? So I did. I basically went on the merry-go-rounds and I played whack-a-mole. And for whack-a-mole, I dominated. I dominated and I got a prize. So I got a brown puppy stuffed animal. Now, of course, I'm too old for stuffed animals and there wasn't much room. So here's what I did after I won the prize. The first thing I did was I asked Emily if she wants the puppies. If she wanted it, I could just since her place was on my way home, I thought if you want it, I can stop by your place and give it to you. Well, Emily thought the puppy was cute, but as much as she likes the puppy, she didn't have room in her place. So we couldn't have that. So then I tried to figure out what else to do with the brown puppy. But that is when I had the brilliant idea. I have 2 brothers and a sister, and one of my brothers' birthday was coming up at that time. So I thought, why not talk to Dad? And ask him if I can bring him the brown puppy as a birthday gift for one of my brothers. So I talked to my dad about that, and he was very happy, and he would be happy to have me deliver it to my brother for his birthday. Because the thing is that my dad, my stepmom, and my siblings live in Wisconsin. So of course, they're not in New York when I can just go to them and just bring it to them. No, I had to mail it. So of course, Dad was happy about that. So I put the puppy in, and we mailed, and I put it in a package, and I brought it to the post office to have it shipped to Wisconsin. And although it came a day late, it arrived in Wisconsin, and my brother loved the brown puppy, and that's really good. I'm glad I was able to get the puppy and to give him a birthday gift and all that. Now, as you can tell by listening to this, there was a lot of fun stuff that happened to me during the farm. But it's not over yet, because last month it was not an event, but something happened during our farm tours, like on May 12th. Like, I had a regular day at work. I had a job, like I and so many others had like one school with so many kids, so we did the seasonal farm tour. But something awesome happened that day. Like, when we started, the school that I had today needed to sit at the bleachers before we start our program. Strange, but okay. In the beginning, we had people from Empire and Grow, New York, giving a presentation about food, eating healthy, and everything. And that sounds interesting. And then in the middle of the presentation, they started talking about the New York Mets, and everyone was chanting, "Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets!" Now, why are the Mets involved in this? Well, as we were chanting, we looked at our left, and what did we see? We saw Mr. and Mrs. Met. Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Met, the mascots of the New York Mets, have come to visit us at the farm. Like, that was amazing. Like, now I knew that ahead of time. It's like we were in the meeting. We had our morning meetings talking about programs. And when they said that Mr. and Mrs. Mets were gonna come to the farm, like, I was so excited. I was like, no way! Mr. and Mrs. Mets is coming to the farm? This is gonna be amazing! And when I knew that on that day I made sure to wear my Mets hat to show my support for the Mets, since I'm a Mets fan. Like, I was so excited to see Mr. and Mrs. Mets. But if seeing them wasn't amazing enough, it gets more awesome. Not only did I give my usual farm tours, but Mr. and Mrs. Mets were part of my group. They came on a farm adventure with me. And that was because the group that I had were the only group that signed permission to have Mr. and Mrs. Mets with them. And when I knew that, I was like, no way! I get to bring Mr. and Mrs. Mets to a farm tour? This is amazing! Like, seeing Mr. and Mrs. Mets is amazing enough, but to spend the whole day with them, taking them on tours? Like, this is amazing! It was such an honor. It was such an honor to not only meet Mr. and Mrs. Mets, but to also take them on farm tours. Of course, they didn't stay with us the entire day, but they spent most of the time. So we were talking, and Mr. and Mrs. Mets were feeding them goats and a lot of that, and just being themselves. Like, it was amazing. But then it got even more amazing, because after the tour and while my group was having lunch, the Grow NYC came along and asked me and told me that they were here to give interviews to students about their program, and asked if anyone likes to get interviewed. And I was like, oh boy, yes, we can definitely do that. So I had two students from my group that were interviewed, talking about eating healthy and the Mets and the farm and everything. Like, I still haven't found the video about those interviews yet, but I was there listening to them, and it was like so amazing. And of course, there were pictures posted at the farm social medias and everything. So there are photos of me with Mr. and Mrs. Mets and my group as well. Like, Shout outs to Grow NYC, the Amazing Mets Foundation, and Empire Blue Cross Blue Shield for making this possible. So I was so happy to get this moment. It's like if you were to ask me what my favorite moment from the farm was, it's gotta be this one. It's like I was happy to bring Mr. and Mrs. Mets on the tour and everything. It's like if you get to spend time with Mr. and Mrs. Mets, you are considered lucky. You're considered a legend. And I was so happy, and I will never forget this. So the spring program ended on June 9th, which was yesterday from when I'm recording this. But the thing is, on the 9th, everybody was off, so it was actually the 8th that ended the spring program. Like, I was supposed to have my final day for the spring program on June 8th. But the thing is that Wednesday came along and I was supposed to come to work. So I woke up and I got to work and everything. But when I got there, I was told that all the schools were canceled. And if you know that day very well, if you're in New York and other places, you know that was the day when the air quality control wasn't good. And that was because of the wildfires that happened in Canada, in Quebec. So for those wildfires, they just spread, and it just caused a lot of smoke coming into New York City. It's like there was a lot of smoke. We couldn't even see the sky, and the world was nothing but orange. It makes you think that you're in a Mad Max movie, but that it was real, and it looks really scary. It only lasted for the day. Of course, now that I'm recording this, everything is better and getting back to normal, but it was scary for some people there. And obviously, schools were canceled, and we're told we can't have too many outdoor activities because the smoke can easily kill and everything. So of course they were canceled, and we went home. So Monday, June 5th was my last day for the spring program. So a very abrupt end to that. I wish it ended with me just doing the program and then preparing for the summer, but none of us expected this would happen. It just happened, and we had to do what we gotta do and everything. Very bizarre end, but what can you do there? But that was my entire experience with Queens County Farm in the springtime. So I had a lot more hours and a lot of new people. So much so that I'm currently standing alone as the oldest and most experienced of the young core. So and a lot of things happened, and it was so interesting there. It's like I learned a lot more, and I'm so glad that I was able to do those programs and to help a lot more with the farm and everything. Everything was fun. So now, what's next is the summer program. Based from what I was told and knowing what was going on, it's pretty much going to be like the winter session, where it's very limited because of summer school, of course, and only showing up when we're asked to be there, and it was very limited. But of course I'm still gonna do the summer, but I'm not gonna get much, and knowing that, and knowing my financial situation, it's pretty much forcing me to look elsewhere for work. I really don't want to look for another job because I love working in this farm and all that, but of course I gotta move on at some point to get everything back up, because I'm losing a lot there. But of course I'm gonna continue working in summer, which I'm of course excited. But of course, if I end up finding something else, then I'm gonna have to go with that. But We'll play by ear and see how everything goes, but I hope you enjoyed the spring programs and I hope you enjoyed this video. So, of course, we're still looking to hire educators. So, if you're interested in working at the farm, feel free to look at queensfarm.org and apply there. We're always looking for new people and everything. And, of course, if you want to get to our programs, you sign up at queensfarm.org. So, that was all for the spring. All we have left is the summer. And now, will I be able to make it a year? Only time will tell. But either way, I'm excited. I'm excited for what's going to happen in the summer and everything. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed. This has been Justin McGolan. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you, and God bless America.